Welcome to the Give and Go. My name's Tim, and today on episode 2 of 32 for 32 for the 2017 NFL season, we're coming back to the second session of Touchdown Time as we look at a bunch of different things that have happened over the NFL over the past couple weeks. And diving into them right now, we're going to start off with the ACL epidemic that has been taking the league by storm. So first off, we look at Trent Murphy from the Washington Redskins. He's out for the season. Even though he was suspended the first 4 games, he's out for the season. Bishop Sankey, the Minnesota running back's out for the season. George Fant, Seattle's left tackle, is out for the season as well. And that's definitely interesting as they had one of the worst offensive lines in the league last year. We'll see how they do after that injury. Raekwon McMillan out for the season. Derek Rivers, Tank Carter, and Billy Wynn are also out for the season. And it's really unfortunate. We've had almost over 30 players this year be out because of ACL injuries, and there are more injuries that have occurred as well. You have OBJ. He might miss a couple weeks actually at the beginning of the regular season after that tackle versus the Cleveland Browns this preseason. Kerry Hyder's out for the season with torn Achilles. So is Brandon Copeland from the Lions. Tony Lippett is out for the season for the Miami Dolphins, and they've already faced so many different issues, especially with Ryan Tannehill going down. At least they got Jay Cutler as a replacement. Quincy Nunn was also out with a neck injury, and their wide receiver core of the Jets, as I was talking about last episode, is horrendous. You're going to have a rookie wide receiver starting, maybe even 2 starting on that team with one of the worst quarterback situations in the NFL. I feel bad for you guys, Jets fans. And also, Alex Lewis, a Ravens left guard, is also out for the season with a torn labrum. So moving on, we're going to talk about trades today. Sammy Watkins was traded to the Los Angeles Rams from the Buffalo Bills. In return, they got E.J. Gaines, the cornerback, who was from Florida State a couple years ago. And in addition, the Bills got a second-round pick. I applaud both sides of this trade. I see the Bills are building towards the future, and the Rams are trying to give Jared Goff some weapons in order to make him productive this upcoming season. The Bills also traded for Jordan Matthews and a third-round pick in trade for Ronald Darby, and that was also a great trade in my opinion, as they were able to, again, get some assets. They already have 2 first-round picks from the trade that they got with the Kansas City Chiefs, where they moved up to get Patrick Mahomes. Now they have a second and a third-round pick, so it's going to be great next year for the draft. In addition, the Philadelphia Eagles traded an offensive tackle to the Seattle Seahawks, so that way they can somehow improve their line for this upcoming season, and we'll see how that goes this upcoming year. Last episode, we were talking about Pay That Man, and so some of the teams actually listened. You look at Linval Joseph, he got paid 4 years, $50 million contract. Charles Leno, the left tackle from the Bears, he got paid a 4-year, $38 million deal. Devonta Freeman, who was thinking about holding out, got paid a 5-year, $41.25 million deal, and that's a great contract by them, as Le'Veon Bell is going to reset the market next year. Thomas Davis was paid a 1-year, $6.5 million extension, and Justin Britt, the center for the Seattle Seahawks, was paid a 3-year, $27 million extension. Stephon Tuitt is supposed to get an extension by the end of this offseason, but there's still some players on the list from last week that have not gotten paid. Odell Beckham is still thinking about taking out a $100 million insurance policy after he got hit low in the legs last week, and he hasn't gotten his contract yet, so we'll wait and see on that. Kirk Cousins is not going to get paid until next year, which is really unfortunate. But you also look at Greg Olsen. Aaron Donald still holding out for that new contract, and we'll actually see if he actually goes into the regular season and misses the whole year. And that would be huge for NFL players, as they would be able to sort of see if they would actually get paid and how far teams would go to get one of their best star players back on the field. Next up, we're going to talk about Antwan Boldin. He came on for the Buffalo Bills at the beginning of August, and a couple of weeks later, he was gone and retired to focus on humanitarian work, and we're going to just focus on his career right quick. He was drafted by the Cardinals, and then he went to the Ravens, and then the 49ers, and now the Bills. He's been one of the great NFL receivers of my lifetime, and I definitely think he belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, even though he's just normally a wide receiver 2 in most of the teams he's played on. He's been a great wide receiver 2, and he's lasted almost 10 to 15 years in the NFL, which is great for him. Suspensions right quick. Ezekiel Elliott suspended 6 games. Max Turek is suspended 4 for the San Diego Chargers. We'll see if both of those suspensions will be upheld this upcoming week. Next up, we're going to talk about the quarterback competitions that have been happening all over the NFL these past couple weeks in the preseason. The Broncos situation is already settled. Trevor Siemian has beaten out Paxton Lynch for a second straight year, and he's going to be taking the reins again for the Denver Broncos. We'll see what Paxton Lynch does. It's really not looking good for him, as 2 years in a row he couldn't beat out a 7th rounder out of Northwestern. So we'll see where that goes from there. The Browns have an interesting quarterback situation on their hands. Cody Kessler, Osweiler, and Kaiser were supposed to be battling out for that starting week 1 position. It looks like Kessler has dropped out of that race and is fighting for a place on that roster, basically, with Kevin Hogan. But Osweiler and Kaiser are looking the favorites to land that week 1 position. Osweiler is not going to be playing this upcoming week in the week 3 preseason game, and Kaiser is going to be starting. So I think that means that Kaiser has a leg up on Osweiler, and Osweiler might be traded as we overall thought back in March. I hope Kaiser does great, and I definitely think with that wide receiver core definitely improved with Kenny Britt and Corey Coleman, and with Isaiah Crowell and Duke Johnson doing well as that improved offensive line. Maybe Kaiser stands a chance on that offense this year, and maybe he can do something great for that team. Next up, we're talking about the Texans, and they said all from the beginning that Tom Savage was going to be their starting quarterback. But we have to wonder, is it going to be such a short leash that of how Brian Hoyer and Osweiler were the past couple of years? Is he going to be yanked for Deshaun Watson at the beginning of the season if Tom Savage fails to impress Bill O'Brien? We'll see from there, but I definitely think Deshaun Watson will be the starting quarterback sooner rather than later. The Jets, again, a dumpster fire, as I talked about last week. Christian Hackenberg being called a rookie by his offensive coordinator, as they were scared to put him even on the practice field last year. I think Josh McCown ends up winning that position, but I think they definitely want Christian Hackenberg to win it, so that way they can have an excuse of why they went 1-15 or 0-16 this upcoming year. It's just a joke on that team. I'm really waiting for next year to see what they do, but I feel bad for you guys, Jets fans. The Jaguars have opened up their quarterback competition this upcoming year. Blake Bortles, as I've said back in May, he sucks. He's one of the worst NFL quarterbacks, and all his numbers are padded by garbage time. Chad Henne has now, I guess, taken the lead in that quarterback situation, and he was the quarterback with Miami like 3 or 4 years ago, and we'll see where that goes. But it'll be interesting to see if they trade for a quarterback, sign a quarterback off the street, or they're going to stick with either Blake Bortles, Chad Henne, or the quarterback out of Arkansas is their third stringer. So we'll see what happens there. And finally, the Bears. Trubisky's been looking really good this preseason. Again, it's preseason, so take it with a grain of salt. But Glennon's look horrendous. Horrendous in the preseason is looking really bad. Good in the preseason doesn't really mean anything. But we'll see where that goes from there. Does he have a short leash as well? Is he supposed to be the starter week 1 against the Falcons? We'll see where that goes from there. But he's already had a pick 6. He's had like 44 passer rating, which is horrible. And so I think Trubisky ends up getting the job sometime mid-season if they don't do well. So we'll see from there. And finally, we're going to be taking a look at the Indianapolis Colts. I'm just saying, they might be challenging the Jets this year for that number 1 pick if they cannot find out what's going on with Andrew Luck. They said that he was supposed to be back week 1 way back in May, and now they're non-committal about it at the beginning of August, and now it's looking like he may not even start the season and may be on the PUP list. We'll see where that goes from there. I've been hearing reports that he's going to be coming back week 3 to face the Cleveland Browns, so we'll see from there. But also, on the other front, they've been trying to trade a couple assets, which I don't blame them. Philip Dorsett's looking like he's been a bust so far. He's the 4th string wide receiver on that team. He was a first rounder just a couple years ago, so he might be traded. Ryan Kelly, their starting center, he's looking like he's out 6 weeks for sure after having foot surgery, and he actually might be back and put it on IR and then redesignated after the season starts. So we'll see where that happens from there. Brian Schwenke is going to take over the reins from him, but that Indianapolis Colts team is still devoid of talent, and without Andrew Luck, I cannot see them winning more than 4 or 5 games this year. Chuck Pagano is on a short leash, especially that Chris Ballard is the new GM, and he has no ties to him at all. So we'll see what happens with him. Thanks for joining us for Football Time on 32 for 32 on The Give and Go. Come join us next week as we're going to be looking at all the roster cuts that are going to be happening throughout the league, recapping week 3 of the preseason, bringing you up-to-date information on whatever happens in the NFL. Go ahead and subscribe and comment below. Have a great rest of your day.